Today we're looking at answering the question, how can real-world scenarios be modeled by linear functions or linear inequalities and their graphs? We're going to look at two examples. First, you want to read through the example and decide if it's best represented with an equation or inequality. Kyle is thinking about joining a new gym. In order to join, Kyle must pay a $50 sign-up fee and $20 monthly. They're giving us an exact value for the sign-up fee and an exact value for his monthly rate. How do you know which value represents the y-intercept? The y-intercept is a one-time fee. So $50 sign-up fee, he only has to pay that one time. He pays that to start with. How do you know which value represents the slope or rate of change? The slope or the rate of change is how much he's paying per month. So some amount of time represents the month. X represents the number of months. And he's paying $20 for each of those. So 1 month is $20. 2 months is $40. 3 months is $60. So this is our rate of change. His cost to join this gym is increasing by $20 each month. So some common words you can look for are per, each, every, and those words represent a rate of change. This is an equation because you're given exact values. The equation would be that the total cost, y, is found by multiplying 20 times the number of months and then adding that one-time sign-up fee of $50. When you graph your equation, you want to make sure you label the axes. There are two things you need to label. You need to represent the x value. What does it represent? It represents the number of months. So we're going to label the x-axis with months. And based on the number of months, we can determine the cost. The cost is dependent on the number of months. Then you need to decide what scale you're going to use. Since we're starting with $50 and we're adding $20 every month, to give a good representation, we need to use a larger scale. Obviously, 1 is not going to work here. So you have to label your axis with what scale you're using. You can use a scale of 1 on the x-axis because we can go by 1 month, 2 months. I'm just going to skip and label every other one. This gets me through a year of membership and how much the cost will increase over a year's time. And then the cost I'm going to start with and label, I'm going to let every tick mark represent 20. So this would be 100. This would be 200. And this would be 300. So the scale on the y-axis goes by 20s and the scale on the x-axis goes by 1s. So if we're starting with $50, we want to go up to the $50 mark on the y-axis for 0 months. Right at the beginning, he pays $50, and then his cost increases by 20 every month. So be careful you're not going up 20 boxes. Obviously, you're just going up $20 per month. So that is in the halfway mark each month. Because I was at 50, this would be 60, that would be 70. So he would pay $70 for 1 month. Up $20 more, 90 for 2, 110 for 3, and then I decide whether or not to connect the points. Discrete data is when the points you've plotted are the only points that make sense. So in this scenario, we need to decide if you think he could pay for a half of month. So in my experience, gyms will, even if you cancel in the middle of the month, you're paying for that month. So I can't just pay, $10 if I go half of a month. So I'm not going to connect the points. I'm going to say this is discrete data. And the only points on the graph that make sense are the ones that I've plotted. And I've managed to plot the cost for 0 through 10 months. My graph shows the cost for 0 months through 10 months. What is the total cost if Kyle is a member for 2 years? Well, my X nor Y value represents the number of years. My X value does represent the number of months. So I'm going to convert 2 years to 24 months and then use that and substitute it for X in my equation. $20 for 24 months plus that initial membership of $50. When I do the computation here, I get that Y equals 530. So Kyle would pay $530 over the course of 2 years for his gym membership. Kyle has paid a total of $170. That is his cost. So that's what we let our Y value represent. So if Y is 170, it's then asking us how many months has he been a member. So we're looking for X given that Y is 170. So we're going to set up our equation 20x plus 50 equals 170 and solve. So I'm going to subtract 50 from both sides. 120 equals 20x. Divide both sides by 20. And we get that X equals 6. So the answer to this question is 6 months. We could have also used the graph and went to 170 for the cost right here. And then saw that that would correspond with 6 months.